QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Open sample file. Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are on our desktop. We're going to be opening up the program and setting up the free sample file that has been provided by QuickBooks. It's a sample file that already has data in it so you can practice the navigation process. Now remember, in the first half of the course, we're not going to be entering any data into the system. We're going to be practicing the navigation process. If you want to practice the setting up of a new company file and doing the actual data input for it, you can jump to the second half of the course when we create a new company file. This is going to be the navigation process. When you want to go through the navigation process, then what you need is data that's already in the system. And that's often the case when people work at another company. They start with a QuickBooks file, not from scratch, but a file that already has something in it. And then you want to practice, how do you get around that file? How do you navigate through that file? That's what we will start with. Now, we will be going through the data file for the project that we will be doing in the second half of the course. In other words, in the second half of the course, we're going to be building a data file as we enter 2 months worth of data. And in the first half of the course, we're going to be using that data file in order to practice our navigation so we can then have an idea of where we're going to end up after we actually create that data file from scratch in the second half of the course. However, if you don't have access to this data file, that's okay. Because one, you can use your own data file. So if you have your own data file and you have a company that's already been going, then you have data in it, and you can practice navigating similar systems on your side using your data. Now, of course, the numbers won't line up, but that's okay because, we're really just practicing the navigation. It would be nice for the numbers to line up, but we're really just practicing the navigation, so it'll still be fine for the first half of the course. If you have a new company file and there's nothing in it, you just purchased QuickBooks and you're trying to learn QuickBooks, then you'll have no data, and that makes it difficult to navigate. So if you have a new company file and no data, and you don't have access to this data file, then you could just simply use the QuickBooks sample file, and that's what we'll set up now. So let's open up the QuickBooks system. If you have been working within a company file, it might open directly into that company file. If not, it'll open to a screen like this. If you had recent files open, it would give you those recent files that would be open here. If you have a company file that is open, then you can close the company file by hitting the drop down here, and you want to go to close company. If you close the company, then you'll come back to a screen such as this, and you'll have the company file basically at the top line item that will give you an easy navigation back into that company file. So now we want to set up a practice file. So we're going to say, hey, look, I'd like to just practice with some data. QuickBooks, could you give me a company file that has some data in it? And these are really useful files because you might see these too, and these are going to be the standard 2 practice files that they have here. They're under open a sample file. Now, when you open the sample file, it's going to have to create a company file to do that. So it's actually going to create a data file that will have to store that data file so that we can then, when we open up QuickBooks, it'll open up basically the sample file. There's 2 basic sample files. We have the sample file for the product-based business, meaning you'll have inventory related to it, and a sample service-based business. Now, these are the 2 kind of standard type of businesses that you could have. So if you're in a service-based business and you want to experiment with data for inventory, a product-based business, then you can use the product-based business item or vice versa. So we have those 2. I'm going to pick the product-based business here, and then it says it will take a few minutes to download the sample file. That means it's actually going to download the file because it needs another file, because remember, the data file is separate from the program in a similar way as the Microsoft Word program is separate than a Microsoft Word document. So it's going to be now downloading the data file that will then open with the program of QuickBooks. So it's asking me, where do I want to put the data file? I'm going to put it into that folder that we had set up for the data file. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put it on the desktop. I got this Get Great Guitars folder that I set up right here. And then I'm going to put it into the data file here. So I'm going to put it into that data file folder. It's going to be sample product-based business. You can rename it if you so choose. I'm going to keep it as is. So I'm going to say save that. And then it'll open up our sample file. It might take a little while to do so. And then it gives you this little warning. You won't have this with your own file, but it gives you this little thing that says, hey, you're using a sample file. You're opening a QuickBooks Desktop sample file. And important, use this sample file to practice while you learn QuickBooks Desktop. Don't use it for your company file. Okay, we're not going to use it for our company file. And so we'll open that up. And there we have it, the sample rock castle construction file. So the point is that this file will already have data in it. So when you run reports, and we will practice running reports and doing things like that, I'll just run a random report here, like a balance sheet. We run the balance sheet. It should give us data already in the balance sheet, as opposed to like a blank report if you're starting at something from scratch, which is kind of boring, you know, to navigate through. So once again, if you don't have access to our backup file, then you can use these sample files, and these are great resources to kind of look at. You can see how they set up their account numbers and how they set up basically sub accounts and stuff like that. So it's a good practice file to use. So I'm going to then minimize this and see where it put it, see what happened on our side of things on the desktop. Notice we still have the program file. So when I open up the program, it's now going to open up to the last thing we had open, which is that data file for rock castle construction. So then I'm going to go into the data, the Get Great Guitars. Where did the actual file get located? We put it into this data file. So I have it in the data file here, and there it is. So there's the actual file. So I'm going to make this large just so you can see it. And so, and it's got all this other junk in it. I call it junk because I don't think it's necessary, but I mean, maybe it is, but this is the actual file. It's a QBW file. So this is like the Word document. If you're comparing to like Microsoft Word and Word documents, Microsoft Word is the program. This is kind of like the Word document. So this would be like Microsoft Word, the program that you're opening that will then open kind of like the Word document. This would be kind of like the Word document. The thing that we zip is going to be a backup file. So we have one other kind of dimension with QuickBooks in terms of our analogy here than we do with Microsoft Word, and that is the backup files that we will be using. So we have the program, we have the data file, the QBW file, and then we're also going to have, with regards to QuickBooks, backup files, which will have a different extension here, QBB file extension, I believe. Well, here's one right here. Yeah, QBB extension. So that is that. Notice that this other stuff, if I maximize this, I don't think you need this, but notice you want to save these data files somewhere where you have room to save it, because it doesn't just give you the file, it gives you these other kind of weird things, which I don't think you need. If you deleted them, I think you'd be okay, but I don't delete them just in case. So make sure you put it in a folder. If you just save this to like your desktop, then you're gonna have this junk, floating around on your desktop, right? So put it in a folder so you don't have that problem. Now, when you start a new company file from scratch, QuickBooks will often house this data file in some random location under like your C drive, under like Intuit, which we'll see when we create a new company file. And you want to go in there and locate, make sure you know where it is. And when you create backup files, again, you want to know where they are. So next time, we'll go through this process again, and we'll restore our backup file this time. And this is the actual data that we will be using to navigate through, the data that we will be creating at the end of this process. So next time we're going to open up QuickBooks again, and instead of creating a sample file, we will back up our data file, which is going to be the data file that we will actually construct in the second half of the course. And as we navigate through it, we will be navigating through the data that we will actually put together in the second half of the course.